Hello, welcome to Board Deck and Dice. This is another BrewTube. Today I just wanted to talk about the realities of being a board game reviewer. I've seen a number of topics recently, and rather than put my opinion in, I will just talk about the reality of how it's worked for me and how it is working for me. I'll try and keep that as objective as possible. That's pretty much impossible, but I will try and do it anyway. And my hope is just to kind of shed a bit of light of what it's like, and perhaps take some of the glamorization out of it, take some of the mystery out of it, and then just see where we go. So I do this as a hobby. I'm usually in work while I'm doing it. At the moment, I'm taking a break from work to homeschool my son. So that takes up a lot of time. So I do this in my spare time. I have never ever been paid for a review or a preview or a video in money. I have, in some of my early Kickstarter previews, I received I don't know if I've received them yet actually, but I was promised a copy of the game once it funded. If it funded, you get a copy of the game, kind of thing. Do this review, you get a copy of the game. I have received two like that, at least. I'm probably forgetting some, but I received a full copy of Package, the abstract game that I did, and also Awesome from One Free Elephant. So I received retail copies of those, essentially, on condition that they funded for doing the review. So that kind of is payment, I guess, in one way. What else? I used to be able to choose my Kickstarters that I wanted to preview a bit more than I do now, and I'll explain that why in a moment. So you can end up with a lot of... I think it's easier as a board game reviewer to focus on Kickstarter because the developers of these games, especially the independent ones, they want a lot of publicity, they want a lot of exposure, and they're willing, especially with the easier to produce prototypes, and if you're willing to do print and play, which I'm not, mainly I'm just not, then you will probably have a lot of success in getting hold of a lot of games. Now, I decided early on I didn't want to do that. I wanted to review mainly full board games that are already published, and then ones that took my fancy. I had a couple of situations where I wasn't really happy with the results. One of those where I felt like I made some suggestions after playing the game, which the developer told me they'd take on board and they were going to change. And then there was no indication that they did and no follow-up afterwards. And I really regretted putting a video out for that because I was basing what I said on their promises. But lesson learned. And another one which didn't ever become a video because I played the game and it was so bad that I ended up talking to them and saying, I will do a review for you, but it's not going to be good because this game has so many problems that I just don't think it's worth it. And as far as I know, they haven't changed anything about the game either. So those two experiences really kind of taught me to be a bit more careful about games that I accepted to preview and review. Did I have any freebies sent to me in those early days? I don't think I did, I think I got some from Harbour for doing the Mega Karuba. They ended up sending me Karuba, but then they weren't sure it was going to get to me in time, so they asked me to buy it, and because I bought it, they reimbursed me with another game. But again, that was for the task. I try and write on the description that I've had a review copy when I have, but sometimes I forget. I'm doing this as a hobby. I'm trying to go back through and make sure I've done it for everything. Certainly I'm more careful about that these days. Then this year, a couple of things happened. The first was I started talking to a guy called Martin Poole. I can't remember how that came about. I think he contacted me because I'm so popular. And through Board Game Exposure on Facebook, we formed a group of, I think there's 5 reviewers now and 1 consumer, with the idea that with these games, we would pass them on to each other. That's what happened. Martin offered to pass on one of these games to anyone who was interested, and I was one of the ones who signed up. I did a review, even though I hadn't been asked for it, and then this was received well by the publisher, and we kind of, Martin as the driving force, and we just kind of formed this group of small group of UK reviewers who would send on at their own cost review copies of games. So the idea is that if you're a publisher or a developer, it costs you the shipping and any custom charges to get the game to one of us. Then we pass it on between ourselves at our own cost. And that sounds like the opposite of being paid, but the truth is, as a UK reviewer, it's difficult to get hold of games to review. I had been reviewing all my own games, and my own games I tend to research before I buy, so I kind of know I'm going to feel quite positive about them. If I play a game that I really don't like, I tend to sell it before I review it, because if I don't like it, why would I waste time playing it? Maybe I should do kind of bad games that have left my collection without a review, or ones that didn't click with me series of videos, to bring that more critical edge. That's something I think about, certainly. And through that, some publishers thought that was a good idea. Stonemeyer sent us all 4 of their games, which you'll see I've done a lot. I've reviewed 3 of them already. I'm just waiting for Euphoria to make its way around the network to me. And that has been great. I have contacted more publishers now than I ever did before. If you watch my videos, you know that I do this as a hobby. You know I don't think I've ever asked anyone to subscribe. I'll stick the thing on the end. Why not? But I don't like asking for likes or subscriptions. I just figure, put it out there and let people do what they want with it. And that's fine, because I'm not doing this to get paid. I'm not doing this as a job. But every now and again you think, oh, it'd be nice to, the kind of romanticized view of a board game reviewer is they get free games to review. And so now that is probably more true than it's ever been, yet I pass them on. And there's various different things. Some publishers are happier for us to offer them up as competition prizes after we've reviewed them. So after, they're going to have had 20 to 30 plays, depending on how many people are reviewing them and how many plays each person needs. But if you work out it's an average of 5 per reviewer, that's, and that's an average. So, and sometimes we get to keep them. Sometimes we'll send them on to another reviewer outside of our group, so they get even more exposure. And we're really easy about that. We don't demand anything about that. We're happy to go with what the developer publisher wants. And that's worked for Kickstarter, people particularly independent, to know that they can send them out. As long as they give us enough time before their Kickstarter, we can have 3 or 4 reviews ready to go across written and video media. Also, and I don't know if it's come because of Board Game Exposure, but a few PR companies have got in touch with me representing game companies, and they've sent me, I got like 10 Cosmos games from a PR company, including all the exits, which I'm working my way through. And again, I won't keep all of those because my collection is too big, and it's causing my wife a bit of stress. But, if I like one of those, yeah, I'll keep it. I might send it around the group first so it gets more exposure. So, yeah, so what am I saying? I've never been paid cash, and I never want to be paid cash for a review or a preview. However, I do love games. Most of my reviews are positive for the reasons I explained. If a game's that bad that I'm not going to play it, it goes out of my collection. However, now I'm working with Board Game Exposure. I am exposed to games that perhaps I wouldn't have reviewed before, and perhaps I don't feel as positive about as ones that I review from my collection that I've researched and I know I'm going to like. And that's interesting. And because you have a relationship with the publisher, it is an interesting quandary about how you phrase things on a video. Now, I haven't had any terrible games sent to me, I would say that. And I have been able to feed back to developers, and it's always really hard to do that, to say, yeah, I liked your game, but this seems really, really doesn't fit the game, or because who am I? I'm just a reviewer, and yes, I've played a lot of games, but why should they listen to me if everyone else is saying it's good and they've got people who know more about these things than me? But I just figure how they respond to that is going to be a measure of whether I want to work with them, regardless if the game is great, meh, or rubbish. So yeah, that's the way I approach it. I've probably rambled on a bit too long. If there's any specific questions about what I've said, stick them down in the comments. I'll reply if I can. If it's too long-winded, I'll do another one of these videos. But yeah, just trying to dispel the romanticism. At the minute, I've got so many games to review that I don't get to play my games for fun. Not that I don't have fun playing games for review. I've got some great ones. I've got Viral, the Exit game, absolutely loved the first one of those. But yeah, there is a work-like nature to it. Yes, calling playing games work is not necessarily good, but never mind. Anyway, I've rambled on too long. Ask your questions down below. Thanks very much.